Chapter 2. Why I am not angry with my trial. I have a terminal neurological disease. Why am I not angry? I've experienced lots of frustration and a fair share of fear since discovering I have ALS. But I've avoided being angry. I'll explain why. My testimony of Jesus Christ has given me a sense of perspective, an idea of where my current challenges fit in the broader story. With that perspective, I can look back on my past challenges. Somehow they do not seem as bad now as they once did. I've had a few recent experiences that drove this principle home for me. Soon after he was born, my eldest son was diagnosed with a birth defect that kept him from pooping. Hirschsprung's disease led to time in the NICU, extra home care, and a surgery. At the time it was really scary. But just a short time later, we looked back on that time and laughed. It wasn't really that bad, through the lens of time. Around the same time, my dream job turned into a nightmare. Everything fell apart around me, culminating in my mentor and later me losing our jobs. I would come home after long days at work and lie on the floor and lament. In retrospect, I now know how much I learned during that misery. The Lord took care of us financially and spiritually. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was then. More recently, my daughter was diagnosed in utero with a heart defect and Down syndrome, and later with Hirschsprung's disease. After 2 major surgeries, she is a toddling ball of smiles. She makes people happy wherever she goes. Her diagnosis felt like a tragedy, but now it feels more and more like a blessing. My second son just had jaundice when he was born and got to sleep in a glowing bed for a few weeks. He has a really big personality, like his siblings, but I don't think that counts as a trial. Those experiences have reinforced that broader sense of perspective, the bigger picture. When Joseph Smith was miserable in the pit of Liberty Jail, the Savior comforted him with a bigger picture. Know thou, my son, that all these things shall give thee experience and shall be for thy good. The Son of Man hath descended below them all. Doctrine and Covenants, section 122, verses 7 and 8. And I've realized that many other sons and daughters of God have descended way below me. I have met happy people all over the world with much bigger trials than I have faced. How can I be angry? Someday, we will look back on this time on earth like I look back on high school. In high school, I learned a lot about a lot. I did some dumb things but avoided a lot of really dumb things that could have limited my future. It all seemed so important at the time, but not anymore. Some people peaked in high school. I look back on that time with pitying nostalgia as a stepping stone, grateful for what it helped me become. I fully expect to look back on this disease and laugh, grateful for what this challenge helped me become. If that is how I will see it, is it not wise to see it that way now? I guess that is faith. But what is faith? I always struggled with the classic scriptures on faith, a hope for things which are not seen which are true, Alma chapter 32 verse 21. See also Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 and Ether chapter 12 verse 6. That idea was a little ethereal for me, and it nagged at me into early adulthood. Maybe I'm the only one, but I doubt it. I finally came up with my own definition, which is allowed in the gospel of Jesus Christ as long as it is based on true principles. Faith is believing or trusting in something you do not yet know to be true because of what you already know to be true. That is why Moroni asks us to think about God's mercy through history. That is why Alma tells us to think of a new idea as a seed, because the last time we planted a seed, it grew. As we study and ponder the scriptures, we would do well to remember that prophets are people too. They went through long struggles to figure out how to explain such concepts as faith. You can imagine Paul and Moroni banging their heads against the wall trying to describe faith. Maybe Alma was actually planting seeds, looking at his growing crops when the Spirit nudged him. They had to learn, process, and teach these principles just as we do. So there is no shame in banging our head to understand them too. When asked a question he did not know how to answer, the Book of Mormon prophet Nephi relied on what he already knew. I know that God loveth his children, nevertheless I do not know the meaning of all things. 1 Nephi chapter 11 verse 17. I believe that no matter how hard, unjust, unfair, or painful this life may seem, we will all be very, very happy with the final balance of scales. Our choices will trump our circumstances. So within our individual constraints, let us choose wisely. It will all be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end. Until then, nerves are weird.